to read a story. A beautiful day to read a story. Beautiful day to read story. Hello, my friends. It's another beautiful day, and today we are reading about Little Red Riding Hood. We're reading a book about Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, let's get into the story. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was loved by everyone who knew her. Her grandmother was so fond of her that she delighted in giving her presents. She made a beautiful cape and hood of red velvet. What's your favorite color? I love red and green and all the colors. The little girl liked it so much that she never went out without wearing it. In time, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood lived with her father and mother in a small cottage near the edge of a large forest. Her father was a woodcutter and worked all day in the forest. Little Red Riding Hood loved her grandmother just as much as her grandmother loved her. Nearly every day she went along the path through the forest to visit her grandmother. One day Little Red Riding Hood's mother said, "Little Red Riding Hood, I have put a cake and a bottle of black currant juice in this basket. I want you to take them to your grandmother. She is ill and they will do her good. Keep to the path and do not wander off into the forest," warned Little Red Riding Hood's mother. "Don't worry, I shall take care," promised Little Red Riding Hood as she took the basket and waved goodbye to her mother. Before she had gone very far along the path through the forest, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. She had never seen a wolf before, and she did not know what a wicked creature he was. She thought he was a large dog, and she was not in the least afraid of him. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Good morning," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Where are you going so early in the morning?" "To my grandmother's." "And what have you got in your basket?" said the wolf. "A cake and a bottle of black currant. Grandmother is ill and mother has sent me to help her get well, and she said to give her this." "Where does grandmother live?" Little Red Riding Hood, said the wolf. "Just a little further down the forest. Her cottage stands under 3 large oak trees." "What a wonderful, tender creature this is," thought the wolf to himself. "She will make a more juicy mouthful than the old woman. But I am cunning, and I shall manage to eat them both," said the wolf. He's such a wicked creature, that wolf. So the wolf strolled along beside Little Red Riding Hood for a little while. "Look at all the pretty flowers under the trees. Are they not beautiful? And can you hear the birds singing? You should stop and enjoy these pleasures instead of walking straight along the path." Then the wolf said goodbye to Little Red Riding Hood and set off quickly to grandmother's cottage. Little Red Riding Hood did as the wolf suggested and looked around. The forest was indeed a lovely place. The sunbeam danced through the trees, the ground was carpeted with beautiful flowers, and overhead the birds ran merrily. "I shall pick a bunch of fresh flowers for my grandmother. They will cheer her up," she thought to herself. So she wandered further and further from the path, gathering the prettiest of the flowers. By now the wolf had reached grandmother's cottage. He knocked at the door. "Who's there?" said grandmother. "Little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you a cake and some black currant juice." "Press the latch. Open the door and walk in, my dear," said grandmother. "I am so weak that I cannot get up." The wolf pressed the latch and opened the door and walked in. Ooh. Without saying a word, the wolf went straight to the bed and gobbled up grandmother in one mouthful. Then he put on her nightdress a nightcap which he pulled well over his eyes. He drew the curtains and got into bed, pulling the bedclothes well up to his chin. Then he waited. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood had wandered far from the path, for the loveliest flowers always seemed to be farthest away. When she had gathered a pretty posy of flowers, she returned to the path and went on her way. When Little Red Riding Hood arrived at Grandmother's cottage, she was surprised to find the door standing open. "Good morning, Grandma," Little Red Riding Hood said as she went inside, but she got no reply. Then Little Red Riding Hood began to feel rather uneasy. She went up to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with the cap pulled down to her eyes and the bedclothes pulled up to her chin. She looked very strange. "Oh, Grandmother, what big ears you have!" "All the better to hear you with, my dear." "Oh, Grandmother, oh, Grandma, what big ears you have!" said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," came the reply. "Oh, Grandmother, what big eyes you have!" "All the better to see you with, my dear." "Oh, Grandmother, what big hands you have!" "All the better to hug you with, my dear." "Oh, Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" "All the better to eat you with." With these words, the wolf jumped out of the bed and gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood in one mouthful. But the wolf is such a wicked creature. Well, soon he began to snore. He snored so loudly that the cottage shook. Do you snore when you sleep? Well, sometimes I do. How do people snore? Let's do it. Maybe we can find a friend to show us how they sleep and snore. Just at that time, Little Red Riding Hood's father was passing nearby. He heard the awful snores coming from the cottage and thought he had better go see why Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother was snoring so loudly. When he went up to the bed, he saw the wolf lying there. "You wicked creature!" he cried out in rage. With one blow of his axe, he killed the wolf and pulled him out of the bed. Then he had an idea. Perhaps the wolf had swallowed grandmother whole, and perhaps he was in time to save her. Little Red Riding Hood's father cut open the wolf, hoping to find grandmother inside alive. Imagine his surprise when up popped a little red hood and out jumped Little Red Riding Hood. "Oh, how frightened I was! It was as dark as night inside the wolf," cried Little Red Riding Hood. Then her father helped grandmother out. She was still alive but was feeling very unwell. Little Red Riding Hood and her father put grandmother into bed. They gave her some of the cake and some blackcurrant juice. Soon she was sitting up and feeling much better. They were happy and relieved all to be alive and well. So am I. I'm happy and relieved they're all alive and well. Well, Little Red Riding Hood's father took her by the hand and led her back home. When Little Red Riding Hood's mother heard their story, she was shocked and she gave her little girl a hug. Aww. Little Red Riding Hood promised that she would never wander off the path through the forest again. And she never, ever did. Yes. The end. That's the story of today. Little Red Riding Hood. And who's amazing? I am amazing. You are amazing. Till the next time, take care of yourself. I'm sitting by the sun and the sun is shining down on me.